What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 184 of Littleroot Lessons. As always, I'm your host, Carter Noble, and joined by our new host, we have Angelo, we have Jay. What's going on, guys?
Go Birds.
What's up? What's up? Big Tross.
You're clearly cheering for like the Eagles, but you know what we mean is the Ravens are clearly better.
No.
Right, Jay?
No.
That's how this works.
No, we were not.
Alright, fine. We all agree the Falcons are the superior bird team.
I think we could say that for this week. I think that's a definitive thumbs up because we were really bad despite winning really big. It was Lamar looked terrible.
Oh god, dude, you all look terrible today.
And we lost JK.
What's great is you all can't critique my team yet because we haven't played.
What our listeners and viewers missed, we wanted to start recording at like 7:20, 7:15ish, but the Eagles are still playing, and when I mean I felt every single human emotion known to man in the span of those 20 minutes. We won, and I still feel sick. It's miserable.
Because here's the worst part. We get connected and everything, and Angelo goes, "All right, I'm gonna go get my victory bourbon," and then he comes back. He's like, "This might be sorrow bourbon now. What's going on?"
It was the perfect definition for why you never pop off too early. You just don't, because you're gonna get got. It always happens.
You're gonna get punished. It's gonna be upsetting. Everyone's gonna make fun of you.
I dodged the bullet.
But yeah.
Speaking of popping off, we had a tournament this weekend.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things this past weekend. So obviously a huge congrats to Carl and Kayla for their newborn daughter. That is why Carl's not here. And for the foreseeable future, you're gonna have Angelo and Jay, maybe permanently. Who knows? We'll figure it out as it happens, right? So huge shout outs to Carl and Kayla. Congrats to them. On a much less happy note, I had kidney stones this week, so it was awful. So just complete opposite end of the spectrum. I'm dying.
Two members of the LRL family went to the hospital. Only one left happy.
Hey, I was very happy. I got drugs.
This is not on my Good Christian podcast.
Multiple LRL community members went to the hospital. One extra came back. One came back a much happier person. Not because they brought back babies, but because they brought back drugs.
So should we talk about Pittsburgh, or do we want to just talk about?
No. Let's talk about Pittsburgh. Let's just focus on Pokemon.
Let's go to Pokemon before we ramble, because we will ramble.
We will.
It's inevitable, right? Like that's how this happens.
Absolutely, I am unwell right
now.
now.
Thanos snap that stuff.
So, this weekend was the regional championships over in Pittsburgh. 424 Masters players for VGC. I haven't seen anything for TCG pop up yet. I think they're still playing top 8.
Probably.
But, Angelo, you know things. You got to watch stuff.
I got to watch for a few rounds of day 1. I got to see most of the rounds of day 2. Once football started, things went a little wacky, especially once the Eagles game started. But again, we're crowning Riley Factura as not only our first regional champion of the season, but congratulations, you are our first Worlds qualifier of the 2024 season. To remind everyone, all winners of regionals and all winners and all finalists of ICs, regardless of the number of points they have, automatically get a spot in the World Championships. And just in general, this top cut is filled, especially the top 4, is filled with veteran players. Aaron Traylor, of course, Long-time player, very consistent. Alberto Lara, who has been playing for a long time and was huge in the 2023 season with his Klefki teams. Everyone knows about Wolf Glick. And Riley Factura, not as big of a name as the other three, but he is, after this win, he is now a 5-time regional champion, which is absolutely massive. I believe his previous 4 wins, the 2015 season in Seattle, 2016 season in Salt Lake City, 2017 season in Phoenix, and the 2019 season in Portland. Of course, this making this his first regional win in the East Coast time zone. So congratulations on that massive win, Riley.
Yeah, his so he still has his pinned. His last win was in Oregon back in 2018, which was the 2019 season. Still has that pinned. Playing Xerneas, Kyogre, Kartana, Ensign, Amoonguss, and Tornadus. So just like Torn Ogre plus other good stuff. Not like I mean that seems very fitting for like the time.
It does. And when you also look at
2 things that are weak to fire and a rain setter.
Hey, for all we know, the Amoonguss that he used this weekend could have been the same exact Amoonguss he used back in Oregon. You're now one of the best parts of Regulation D is that with that home transfer stamp, you're able to actually take the Pokemon that were legal this entire time in the Scarlet and Violet Paldea decks, but from older games, and then send them up and use them, which is a necessity because, as we can see here, a lot of the Pokemon in the top cut are these home transfers. Of course, Riley with a third of his team, with half of his team being a home transfer Pokemon. Wolf having 2. Just going through Alberto having 2. Like at least it looks like at least every team has at least 2 home transfer Mons. You can even look at like Aaron Trailer's team, which features 5 of his 6 Pokemon you can only get via Pokemon home transfer. So just to show like the impact that these Pokemon have had on the overall meta, like they are, and how defining they are in the overall history of competitive Pokemon.
Talking about defining Pokemon, Riley doesn't have Fluttermane on his team.
Yeah,
he's not.
I think it's the first regional win where Fluttermane hasn't won.
That's since Flutter,
which I think is
since it's been legal.
Legal, I think it's won every single one. I think this is the first time. I believe it won. Yeah, Shohei had it on his Worlds team. I believe Fluttermane has been on every single regional winning team. I could be mistaken. It's been on a large majority. And given like the meta formation, it's very surprising. Obviously, 60% day 1 usage, 64% day 2 usage, and to see a team without it win is a really nice change of pace. I think we saw some really unique tech on Riley's team in terms of just unique Pokemon and cores here with some of the meta staples.
Yeah, I think when you look at Riley's team and along with like Riley's team, Aaron's team, who also didn't have the Fluttermane, and Rajan's team, Rajan coming in 8th place, like he did have the Fluttermane, but like a lot of those teams were built around the Cresselia Heatran core, which was very much like the backbone of those chalk teams of early generations. And I know a lot of early meta teams, or at least early meta team building ideas, looked at chalk as like a basis, since we had like we got Crest back, we had Heatran, we had Amoonguss was legal the entire time, we got Lando, and just taking like iterations of other Pokemon to make this team. And in one of the last Regulation D events, this early meta like thought process and idea that we really didn't see at Worlds really came through at Pittsburgh. And of course, with that being said, it makes sense that a lot of veteran players are piloting that because they were around when that initial chalk idea was being played back in Generation 6.
So I know Jay mentioned a little bit about the like day 1 and day 2 usage. Do we want to talk about those before we get into the actual top 8 teams here?
Sure.
Just talk about like what was good and then what did not translate well into day 2.
Well, obviously, Arcanine is one who fell off. The Hisui form, I think, was a bit of a surprise to me for the day one.
Yeah, I
Just
agree.
being on that top 12, it's unique in the format in that, like, Urshifu threatens it quite a bit. Intimidate does feel at times a little bit weaker because of things like Urshifu and Chien Knight, which seems to have fallen off quite a bit. In all honesty, I haven't seen a lot of it recently, but
So the Arcanine's actually, because of the rock typing, is actually insanely good into Chien Knight. Being able to threaten both Pokemon, like
Which
especially like if you're not carrying Sacred Sword on your Chien-Pao, the Arcanine isn't super afraid of it, and the it kind of forces the Dragonite to Terra out of its flying type, unless it is a Terra flying Dragonite, because it's going to hit really, really hard with Rock Slide. And so when I saw the Hisui and Arcanine, so going into the event, I thought that the Hirofumi Tailwind offense team, that Hirofumi, a Japanese player, he cut Worlds with the team. And then after Worlds, he won Wolfglick's Japan Invitational. I've been playing the Hirofumi team a lot. The rental's out there publicly. I know that Cybertron featured it. Probably other like VGC like YouTubers did as well. The team, it's Fluttermane, Waterfoo, Torn, Chien-Pao, Rillaboom, and the Hisui and Choice Band, Terra Normal, Hisui, and Arcanine. The amount of damage that Arcanine can put out, it's absolutely amazing, and it just does super, super well into a lot of the other teams in the format. The world's winning team actually struggles quite a bit with against Hisui and Arcanine, so it made, at least seeing it for me, it made sense that Hisui and Arcanine was this high, because I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of people chose to just take that hero, like the 6 Hirofumi Pokemon, and make it on their own. I know one of our community members, Hush, played the Hirofumi 6, and he finished, I believe, top 6. I know he was 6'3". I believe he was top 64 with that 6'3". But that's congratulations to Hush. Great, great job with that finish. And of course, Andrew Ding did make top 8 with a variation of the team. Of course, not all the sets were exact, but that was why I think it was for day 1, and the reason why I think it fell off for day 2 is because the people who made day 2, they definitely prepped against this team. I believe Alberto Lara, after knocking Andrew Ding out of top 8, said that was the 4th or 5th time he played that exact 6, and it was the 4th time he played against that 6, and he was 8-2 in overall games against them. So that, like, he won, like, he had a few 2-0s there against that team. So the good players prepped for it, and that's probably why it was a lot of play day 1, but then fell off day 2, because everyone had their like answers for that team.
I think Jay mentioned it, and I agree. When you, I think, Angela, you sent the day 1 usage to us. First thing I said is Arcanine being that high is really surprising, and it makes sense why it would be, right? Like, if everyone are playing this 6 that has done very well, it would make sense that it would be highly rated, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at day 2, and I don't know if a single Arcanine made day 2 actually.
Yeah,
so
someone talked about
an Arcanine did make top 8.
But
Oh,
I think I think the
look?
big thing with day 2 is that the players preferred Chi-Yu as a fire type to Arcanine. It was a lot more of the Chi-Yu flutter cores. We saw Chi-Yu skyrocket to 6 in usage from not being on the top 12 in day 1. That the special defense drop that you get from Beads of Ruin and it's dual stabs, it's specs overheat, which has been, from what I saw, the most popular GU set right now is
Yeah.
choice specs.
I can confirm that
Um,
real quick.
and I think Wolf had it. I know Justin Tang had it. Um, a lot of the Chiyu that I saw on stream were like that choice specs overheat, and they kept making jokes about how you can't calc against 252 plus choice specs Beads of Ruin overheat from GU. And I think it's just it like one shots Landorus, and it does this massive damage into all these big Pokemon, that are extremely threatening to a lot of these major cores. And it's it has a higher speed stat than the Arcanine. You're doing the choice band stuff with Arcanine, which is great until you get locked into choice band extreme speed into Flutter Mane, which
Like cool. Love that.
or you click Outrage into Flutter Mane, which is also something I love, as we all know. But it's just like I think that the Chi-Yu Flutter core, like I know when I started playing the format, that felt extremely strong, and I think it just really just remains. The choice specs variants have been really really cool. The damage is just absurd.
Are the choice band Arcanine sets, are they running Head Smash, or are they playing something else in that last slot?
Yeah,
Is it
they
like Terra
run
Blast?
Mostly Head
Extreme
Smash.
Speed, Flare Blitz,
Rock
Head
Slide, Head
Smash, and
Smash.
Rock Slide.
Okay.
And like the
Um,
Head Smash next to like the Banded Head Smash, especially next to Chien-Pao, like
you can't calc against it.
No, you can't. So I was
Same argument. It just does too much.
I was at a
Except for
local
20% of the time.
Yeah, I was at a local on Thursday, and my round two opponent, it was like a harder trick room team with Fergraph as he had both Crest and Fergraph, and so he went like with a Fergraph Mousehold lead. I led Arc Chien-Pao, and it wasn't Terra Ghost, it was Terra Normal. Mouse. It was very similar to the team that Rushield brought to Worlds, his Hard Trick and Bruxus team. So I knew, I'm like, okay, I can Sacred Sword into the Mouse, and then as long as Head Smash hits, I'm pretty sure I pick up this KO. And it did, and he looked at me, my opponent, he was like, I didn't expect that. He's like, I'm insanely physically bulky. And I'm like, buddy,
can't calc against it.
Banded Swords of Ruin Head Smash.
But we also saw, like, this weekend, I think inaccurate moves were, a big talking point as well. We saw way too many heat wave misses and crucial moments and overheat misses, and this is missing that and that's missing this. It was absurd. It felt like every match there was some type of crazy RNG as well, which is a lot of fun to watch. These battles were all extremely exciting.
Those matches are very fun.
They're fun to watch. They're not fun to be a part of.
Oh God, no.
No.
they make for very good content.
Amazing content.
Regardless of what side you're cheering for, it's just constant popping off.
Do not remind Carter of the Dunsparce.
That one was not fun. That was insanely good luck. I want insane bad luck.
That was insane bad luck for you. I mean,
yeah, which same thing, right?
It depends on what side of the coin you're looking at here, right?
Yeah,
there's always good luck or
or
bad luck. It just depends on which side you're looking at.
So atrocious.
But the RNG was pretty crazy. I know Justin Tang missed a heat wave. That was really important. There was an Ice Beam freeze in Game 3 of Finals on Wolf's Landorus. That was really crucial.
Let me rephrase that. A crit and freeze.
Crit, yeah, and then Riley got like another 3 crits.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and it was so much fun. And the tournament was so stacked too. Every single round was just another big name player playing against another big name player. Like round 1 stream was Chuppa versus Paul Chua. And it was just like nonstop action. That's the good thing about like the smaller tournaments. I know Fresno was similar last season. They get like the best of the best players. These smaller limited population tournaments, and they're a lot of fun to watch from a spectator's point of view. I'm sure it was a lot less fun to play in.
Yeah. Well, it's not even just like the best of the best, like in the small tournaments. And it's just like this is like the quote unquote East Coast tournament, and I'm not going to get into it, but Pittsburgh, not
Yeah,
East
do not
Coast.
get
It's
into
not
it.
real East Coast. Fight me on it on Twitter. I'll just block you.
It's not.
Then it's not a fight.
With that being said, with it being the East Coast event, and when you're also looking at two of the largest like local player bases, and in my opinion, two of the most talented local player bases, like the New York player base, like the New York North Jersey player base, is the most talented player base in the entire country, and the New England player base has a lot of high class veterans, and so you're looking at those two big player bases. This is pretty much their closest regional, even though it's like for like I know like for players like Aaron, like 8 hours away, so it's actually not close at all. Regardless, that is probably another reason why there were so many high quality players. If like because the thing is with Fresno, you did get a lot of the California players, but and like you weren't seeing like Wolf like flying out there. Aaron Traylor wasn't flying out there. Like Brendan Zane, I don't believe Brendan Zane flew out there. Like those players like they weren't going out, and it's because they were like, why bother? It's expensive to fly to Fresno, and it was also a awful decision for a venue.
There's an ice cream truck outside my house.
It's wait, I was going to. That makes sense.
Not to transition too hard, but
Yeah,
ice cream.
Hardcore transition.
So I'm assuming we want to break down these top 8 teams. Start from 8, work our way up to 1.
Sure thing.
Cool. So in 8th place we have Rajan Ball playing Fluttermane, Urshifu. I'm assuming single strike or rapid strike. It doesn't actually say here.
So. I don't think there was any single strikes in the top 8.
Let me see if I can check his Twitter. Yeah, I don't think so.
Tornadus, Cresselia, Heatran, and Lando. I feel like we're going to see a lot of this. Like, not exactly this 6, but a lot of these 6.
Yeah, a lot of the teams really do reflect each other. I think that the meta is, I mean, especially with Reggie now, announced, like the meta is kind of stabilized to a point where we're seeing, people just kind of take what's consistent. That Fluttermane, Urshifu, Heatran, Landorus core is like extremely popular. You put the Cresselia on there, you have your Trick Room mode. You put your Tornadus on there, and now you have your Tailwind mode. And Rajan's team makes a lot of sense given the Pokemon that he has, that they have, and it could really, a lot of these Pokemon can function both in Trick Room and out of it. Specifically like that Heatran and Cresselia, the Landorus being slightly slower with its natural base speed. Although Choice Scarf Landorus was extremely popular in this tournament. I feel like every time I saw one, it was scarfed.
Yeah, a lot of
really cool.
A lot of choice. I saw a lot of scarf, a lot of band. There were a lot of choice Landos. I know that Wolfie, I believe his was Clear Amulet. So like there were a lot of different items with Lando, which is also really fun. A lot of different sets amongst the same Pokemon, which is really cool. I always enjoy like the tail room teams. I think it's always super fun to switch between speed modes. You can even do like that super like click buttony hyper offense of Torn, Waterfoo, Flutter, and then have like one of like whichever of the remaining 3 in the back is your 4, or you can play that slower game, pivot it out the Lando, get the Trick Room up, let Heatran do its thing. Maybe like in a Tailwind versus Tailwind matchup, you're actually doing Trick Room and you're spinning everything on its head and taking advantage of your opponent's Trick Room. So all fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean the like multi-speeded these teams that have multi-functioning speed control options are well performing for a reason. The fact that they are able to play to whatever their opponent is trying to do, or the opposite of that in some cases, is really beneficial to them, being able to properly position themselves to be able to take over a game, right? Like, if your opponent is leading a Tornadus and you have your Cresselia out, like, well, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to win that speed control, right? Like, you're going to be able to pressure them in such a way where they have to play the game you want to play as opposed to you playing the game they're trying to play. And then, late game, you can bring in your Fluttermane and your Urshifu and clean up the game from that point. Like, they spent these first 4 or 5 turns trying to pivot around your Trick Room to try to not get KO'd so they can stabilize. And then at that point, it doesn't really matter because you already have your sweeper set up in the back ready to go. I've always really liked these teams. They are something that I am not completely. I would say I kind of suffer playing these kind of teams, like personally, just because they are more about like positioning and pivoting and like being able to play, like being able to figure out what your opponent is trying to do before they do it, and like making good reads as to do that. Whereas just click the super effective button. It works, right?
Well, like to an extent, moving on to Jody's team, again, you can't calc against 252 plus spec speed to ruin overheat.
And then you pair Fluttermane next to Chi-Yu, and it's just like, well, that's something else that's going to be really threatening.
Yeah, that pairing is absolutely nuclear. And I think that the other like interesting thing with like the Trick Room mode too is that we're not seeing the Ursaluna in this top 8.
And
That's something I feel like, you know, I know I personally have struggled trying to get it to fit on certain teams. It's a little difficult to play in terms of its positioning and, Urshifu being able to hit through protect, trying to get in with the flame orb activation. Without it, your damage output is a little underwhelming. And with like Intimidate running around, it's a little hard to get it in and kind of sit there, like you want it to, and just do massive damage and just one-hit KO things. You kind of have to get it off the field and get that Intimidate drop gone. So I think that's like an interesting trend that I'm seeing amongst the teams with Cresselia is that most of them don't have like an out and out Trick Room sweeper. Like you have your Iron Hands, you have your Heatran, these Pokemon that are good in Trick Room, but like don't need it to do their thing,
yep,
and it
100%.
makes them extremely flexible. And that Iron Hands, the bulk of that Pokemon is just absolutely ridiculous. You just see it eat Moon Blasts and eat Surging Strikes for breakfast. Those neutral hits that go into it is just, it just eats them for breakfast. Like that thing is so bulky, and it really creates this amazing core with your speed control, your spore, your damage. It's a
Yeah,
really good
your
glue mod.
redirection as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
Do we know what item the hands was?
I
most of them are
I was
AV.
gonna say yeah.
I know Trailers was leftovers.
Okay.
I
Um,
think his was the
and there was a
only
Swords Dance one, I think,
that was also
somewhere.
Aaron's.
That was
Was it
Aaron's. It
okay?
Yeah,
was it was Swords
That
Dance
Aaron's.
tracks.
lefties.
Yeah, Aaron's was lefty sword stance. Yeah, lefty sword stance, detect, and all that jazz. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of them were assault vests. I know that we were just saying like how super strong Flutter is, and while Flutter was the most used Pokemon in both Days 1 and Days 2, I actually think that Hands has became like the number one mon of this format. And I feel like as the format always develops, it always comes back to Iron Hands, the amount of bulk, the amount of offensive pressure, the ability to fake out, the ability, and like the number of sets you have where you can run it like the AD4 attacks, that lefty set that Aaron ran with Sword Stance, be able to just really like boost up and just take kills that way. The ability for it to stay on the field with Drain Punch it does so many amazing things, and it has that longevity where it sticks on the field, and it's always a constant threat to either regain its health to stay to live another day to fight again, or to maybe like pick up the KO on on one of these ruined Pokemon that we're seeing, like the Chimpao and the Chiyu. If they aren't Terra, they're going to really, really take a chunk from a Drain Punch. Or like your water foods, they really don't like getting um, a wild charge like sent into them. And of course, like Flutter, unless you're a non-fairy, like a non-fairy Terra Flutter, you're going to go down to Heavy Slam, like without any Sword Stance boost or anything. And it's like that in itself is great. If you can take out the most used Pokemon, that makes you an insanely good Pokemon on your own.
Yeah, for sure. Hands is a mon that has only ever impressed me. The more I've played with it, the more I've really, really liked it. And I think, unfortunately, the biggest deterrent for me playing Hands right now is how popular Lando is starting to be. With with having a good intimidator that lines up well against both of your stabs, it's kind of hard to justify it, but that's also why you have 5 other teammates, right?
I was just about to say that.
Just because you have one bad matchup doesn't mean that it's unplayable.
Yeah, now, so like,
yeah.
You look at,
granted, you don't line up particularly great against Flutter Mane, which is running around everywhere, but we've discussed, when you can take hits all day, you can take a hit and then heavy slam them back, and next thing you know, you're fine.
Yeah. And you can get the HP, and maybe like depending on the board state, you might even have a chance of getting some of that HP back the following turn by using the Drain Punch.
And Drain Punch, whatever their partner is, yeah.
Yeah. And with what you were saying, Carter, it's like, sure, like so we have, in the top 4, we have 3 Landos, but we also have 3 Iron Hands, and like on 2 of the teams, they have both Lando and Hands together. So like, I think as scary as it is as scary as Lando is against Hands, it also, the 2 of them really work well together as a duo.
And I mean, also looking at the top 4, most of these teams have 1 to 2 bonds that are just like pretty weak to Iron Hands, right? Like Riley's winning team has 2 bonds that are weak to you have Chin Pao, you have Heatran, you have Urshifu, all of which really don't like taking a stab hit.
No.
And if you have the Chin Pao or the Heatran out, you can always Drain Punch, get all that HP back from taking the hit. Wolf has the same idea here, right? You hit the Urshifu super effectively. You hit Chi-Yu super effectively. And there's King Gambit here.
Yep.
Yeah, you hit a bunch of things for a bunch of damage, and those things that you don't hit super effectively are still going to take a big chunk.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, like, even like the hands that aren't super invested in damage output can still do a ton. And if you really need that extra oomph, you do have the ability to just click, like, if again trailer set, click the Sword Dance button, and okay, your offensive problems are solved. You intimidated me, boop, I'm good.
It'd be a shame if you had to do that multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something that early on in series, like Regulation B, Regulation C, whenever Hands was first introduced, was that B?
B, yeah.
Like prepping for Knoxville, like Hands was on my list of things that I really wanted to test and play. And, I was playing a lot with like Swords Dance Lumberry, and then I'm like, why am I playing Lum if I can just play like Safety Goggles to deal with the Munkus? And it's like, well, because then I'm still weak to like all the Will-O-Wisp and stuff running around to deal with Annihilate. So like it kind of makes sense to beat Lum. And like if I'm wanting to deal with Arcanine, like having Lum makes sense, and then I can still have Swords Dance as a way to be able to like deter the Intimidates, and like it Hands is something I put a lot of effort into trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to play it, and ultimately I did not end up playing it, but it is definitely something that I put a lot of effort into.
I think the thing with Hands in this format that we're seeing specifically with the top 8 here, as you guys are talking about, there's a lot of things that are becoming more popular, like Landorus, that really are good into the Iron Hands. But now people are starting to slot it in on 3 of the 4 teams in the top 8 with that Urshifu Rapid Strike, which really covers that weakness well. You're running the double fighting types, which makes you a little bit weak to Flutter Mane, which is why you have the Amoonguss or you have the Heatran on those teams. But the double fighting types with the water type damage for the Landorus with the Surging Strikes and the higher base speed, and then the slower, extremely bulky fighting type in Iron Hands, it shows the value of that stab combo, the fighting plus a really good offensive type. But also how these two fighting types in a meta defined by a fairy type are still finding their way to work on the same team together.
100%.
And then you have Chia and Pao, who's also weak to fairy types on the winning team. It's really cool.
Cresselia as well, who's weak to Ghost.
And it doesn't I think that it also doesn't it shows that you cannot undersell the defensive presence of Heatran and Amoonguss in this format. They are just defensive juggernauts into the majority of the metagame right now, and they work so well into that Fire Water Grass core with the Urshifu. Throw that hands on there with the fake out support, and you can put whatever you really want in those final 2 spots and make it work. And that's something that we're seeing a lot.
Anything in those last 2 slots can work.
Settle down. Settle down. We're not doing this. This is not your intervention.
We have Bramblegast in the top 8. I think that literally anything can work.
Okay, so
it is so cool. That Pokemon is amazing. I won the first Pat. I won the first Bauerdad Pat with Bramblegast Kilowattrel team, and it is just so. It is such a cool Pokemon. Shout out to Ofamezi for piloting it all the way up to number 5.
It's such a funny mon. I love it, and it was on my playthrough team, and I'm just like, man, this thing is kind of ass. And then actually
it's
getting
so
to see
not.
it in doubles and
It's
everything.
so good.
I was
actually getting to see it played and everything. I'm like,
yeah,
hey, maybe this thing is way better than I thought it was. But again, it was just kind of laughably bad compared to everything else going on. So seeing it actually come into its own and having this tailwind support thanks to Tornadus being immune to your opponent's Tornadus and Landorus's signature attack Sandsear Storm.
Yeah.
Well,
did I nail it? Am I right?
Yeah, no, you're actually right for once. I was going to say, I already talked about Andrew Dinks seeing the Hirofumi set. Great team. You know it. I love it. I thought it was going to win. Andrew, I was rooting for you. You'll get him next time, Slugger. Ofamezi, triple ghost with the Bramblegast.
It's so
my
cool.
guy.
Yeah, Terra Ghost, Terra Blast. How you run the Dragapults. It's a cool Pokemon. I mean, you get Shadow Sneak, you get Power Whip. You put it in Tailwind and you get that +1. Yeah, the Strain Sap stuff was crazy. And it wasn't the only time I saw Bramblegast this weekend. I think it was on stream in day 1 as well.
Yeah, so James
the Bleakwind Storms. Yeah. You eat up the Bleakwind Storms. You pretty much wall out the majority of Heatran sets unless they're running the Flash Cannon.
Yep.
Unless they're running that Steel Stab or something that isn't Heat Wave. I know I saw Flamethrower, I think, once or twice.
I recall. I can't remember who it was, but I do recall Flamethrower on a Heatran. But what you were saying with it walling out Heat Waves against other Chi-Yu, it's forcing them. I mean, we'll just say that nothing lives in Overheat. But the best way to live in Overheat is for it to just miss, and it's
or be immune.
Yeah,
or for it to
that's
hit
also an
and
option.
then, or for it to hit and then get it to -2 and then can't do any more damage.
Well, if it's hidden and you're neutral, you're probably going down. The point being, forcing if the
sometimes sacrifices need to be made.
I love how the first half of this episode was just everything dies to Chi-Yu except those things, and now it's just except for the things that don't.
Well, yeah, except for
the only thing that it doesn't, it's Heatran, and that's it. Heatran does. Yeah, it doesn't take the over. It's it survives the overheat, but the Dark Pulse does 80% to it. You know, the Choice Specs Dark Pulse is ridiculous.
Yeah. But like
and the Shadow Ball does nice damage.
The point I'm making is being able to get the Chi-Yu to not click the Heat Wave, because if it locks into that Heat Wave, it'll lose to the Bramble Gas. It's again, it's like another added benefit. One of the things I know, a lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot of people. There are people. I know, actually, Carter, you're one of them, who don't like higher powered formats. And this is a format that has a lot of power in it. But one of the beauties I find in these formats is the fact that in the low power formats, Reg A, Reg B to an extent, we never saw Bramble Ghast because we're like, this is just a bad Pokemon. And in the cosmic actuality of Arceus's domain, Bramble Ghast is a bad Pokemon. But for this specific metagame, for this specific circumstances, these set of moves and popularity and everything, Bramble Ghast has a niche, it has a reason, and the right pilot can take it to top 8 at a regional. And that, I feel like, is the beauty of these formats. It's like how Ditto and Shedinja automatically become like top 50 Pokemon in the GS Cup formats. And you just
we're gonna
never
call
see
this.
them.
We're gonna call this the Umbreon theorem and make False Swipe Gaming make a video about it.
Dude,
I was supposed to say that.
Just getting ready to talk about Umbreon. You literally stole it from me. Yo, I'm mad.
So,
I love Umbreon. It's one of my favorites. I'm sorry.
I was literally just thinking, I'm like, man, maybe we need to talk about Umbreon. Like,
it's
Terra
like,
Poison Umbreon?
It's Umbreon GS Cup theorem. It's just like when you compare it with Groudon, it's really good. When you compare it with Torkoal, it's not that good.
All I can say is that the only theorem that we need is that the Littleroot Lessons hosts share like 3 brain cells. And I think, and I'm not sure.
We're the hive mind.
And I'm not sure.
It's not my day with the brain cells.
It's not your day. It was Jay's turn. I gave up. I gave Jay the brain cells because if I had the brain cells after the game I just watched, we wouldn't be able to post this episode.
Look, man, if we keep having games like that this season for the Eagles, we're gonna be down to 2. Like, we can't afford to lose another one, Angelo.
Oh no! I have the hardest working liver you will find in New England. I'm fine. So Aaron Trailer's team.
Hard transition, trying to get us back on the rails, and it's just not gonna work.
Aaron Trailers, it's Riley Factura's with. I mean, it has like a lot of really cool tech to it. I only watched parts of his sets. So but the main difference is the Rillaboom over the Amoonguss. I love Amoonguss. That's my comfort pick. So I'm personally in the camp Amoonguss here. I know Carter doesn't feel the same.
I'm also camp Rillaboom.
It's a personal choice.
I will say I am also Rillaboom supremacy. Also, just complete side note, Jay, remember when I had to talk you into keeping the Amoonguss on your team that you finished like day 2 with?
Yeah.
We're going to ignore that. I also tried talking you out of Garganackle, but I'm taking that as
that was never happening.
That
was never happening.
That one didn't happen.
I'm taking that as a win one, lose one.
Yeah, no, you keeping the Amoonguss, it was good.
Yeah, but like it's hilarious how you're saying it's like, oh yeah, this is my comfort mon, and like 4 months ago you're like,
Pokemon,
I hate this mushroom.
I'm like, damn, I really need something that like can take hits, resists this Pokemon, and like can also redirect or gain health with Regenerator. I'm like, all right, slot the Amoonguss, put you to sleep, have fun, bozo.
Man, if only there was something that did this and this and this.
I'm like, as long like you literally go be annoying. Like, just I need something that's really annoying.
So
I'm like
accurate.
Put Amoonguss. Yeah, I'm
it's
also
so accurate.
King Stall Supremacy. I've been working on a stall team recently, and it's not good. So don't try it.
Yeah.
Wait till Reggie. We'll figure out the stall code.
Wait till the DLC when we get some
Uh,
TM.
Yeah, I really thought I thought Goodra was gonna be better Earthworm, and then it's just
And
fallen
then it
off.
wasn't.
yeah. So I
It's
think
like
I know like a lot of people. Like I remember at NAIC, I was talking with Pengi, and so like Stefan was saying how he was like, "Hey, this is the stuff." He's like, "Nothing can touch Gudra," and literally in the like so when Nishant, Jacob, and I were driving back from when we left the venue, and like driving to like our hotel out in Scranton. We were like cooking up stuff in the car, and that like our main focus was Gudra. And what we learned testing the Gudra team was that nothing lives a Choice Band Terror but Dark Wicked Blow. Like we're trying to build a Gudra team, and the Gudra's not even like the star of the team. And I think that was like our warning sign of, hey, maybe like this is one of those like early meta like hype mons that everyone realizes 2 weeks in isn't as good as everyone says it is, and we were right.
The Ursa Luna theorem.
I think the thing with Ursa Luna is, or just in general, like I mean, and we can kind of group this together because Trailer and Riley have similar teams. Is that, and like probably with Jody as well, Crest isn't just a trick room bot. Like
100%.
Indeed, he is. You like there are people I know that there's been teams up. I believe Chris ran this for a little. It was I know it was like I think it was also like one like a VR tour or something. It was
Calm Mind.
Yeah, it was the Calm Mind Crest. And
it was stored power.
Yeah, stored power Calm Mind.
Ooh.
And so no trick room. I think it's like Lunar Blessing is an absolutely amazing attack. I don't know why they felt like they need to give Crest a buff. Like Gen 8 was the first.
Lunar Blessing is bananas. That attack is absolutely absurd.
Like because they stole some of its bulk. They were like, "All right, we stole your bulk, so how about better recovery, more consistent recovery?"
Recover, but for everyone.
Well, I think the other thing with it, it's like, oh yeah, because it wasn't good in Gen 8, because it just wasn't great in the Dynamax like environment. And it was like,
you mean when everything has twice the bulk and hits twice as hard?
Yup.
And you mean when Calyrex Shadow was like astral barraging everything? Like try calcing 252 plus Choice Specs Astral Barrage, and
I don't know,
and the Wicked Blows from Urshifu. Yeah, not surprised.
I don't know if you all follow Smogon at all.
I actually
don't know if you all follow
singles. I started watching a lot of singles content recently, guys. I might be brain rotted. Might be brain broken.
Hell yeah.
I think it's over for me. I watched too much Freeze Eye and False Swipe gaming recently.
Okay, so I do like False Swipe stuff.
This stuff is very good.
Someone's got to put me in VGC jail because I cannot go to this singles crap again.
No, I will.
I was an OU player at first, and I can't go back, guys. I can't. You can't let me.
You know,
so the reason I bring this up, Calyrex Shadow actually got banned from Ubers.
Yeah, I believe it.
Calyrex Shadow got banned. It was in what, like 19 minutes? It was within a couple hours at the very least. I think
19 minutes, I believe.
I think it was like 19 minutes. They suspect tested it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Terra Ghost, 252 plus Choice Specs Astral Barrage." Like, good luck when you need to have Yveltal in every single team just to take like 80% from that.
And Yveltal's not even in the game, right? Like, it's not accessible yet.
Not yet.
I think it is on, at least on the OU. Like, do they? I don't think it is. Right, I mean, not on Ubers. It might. Oh my gosh. Carter, are you watching the game, man?
I am.
Are you seeing what's happening right now?
Oh, Giants suck.
I can't.
Blocked field goal return.
I can't.
That was crazy. What's up?
Guess who has Dallas's defense playing against you this week?
That's great, man. That's sick.
So good for exactly one of us.
Yeah, it's okay. Honestly, this week was chalked. Okay, from the minute I lost Mark Andrews and Cooper Kupp for week 1, it was just like, all right, like this is what it is, man.
Wait, so for those of you who don't know, we did a Littleroot Lessons Fantasy Football League again. I think this is our second time doing the league, and
I'm not involved this season, unfortunately.
yeah. Oh no, this is the other league.
I
You're
am.
right. Yeah, we're in both those leagues. All I know is that I'm not.
It's okay, Carter. You guys missed the field
It's
goal.
all right. Our kicker is still atrocious.
That
Are
was
you kidding
horrible.
me?
That was one of the worst kicked footballs I've ever seen in my entire life.
Please, for the love of all that is holy, can we get a decent kicker?
That was literally one of the
ask
worst
for?
kicked footballs I've ever seen, and I literally watch Harry Maguire play on like a weekly basis. To all my soccer / actual football fans, you know what I'm talking about. I watch Harry Maguire week after week. All right, that guy is literal buns. He kicks the ball like nobody's business, and that was somehow worse than that.
Okay, I want to try to get this back on track.
I'm the one who has to get back on
Jay
track.
brought it up.
I'm the one.
I'm saying we're getting this. We're getting back on track. Alberto Lara's team. I actually thought that this was actually, I think, the most. It is one of the most unique teams that we've seen in Regulation D, because King Gambit is not a Pokemon that we have seen a lot of. It kind of felt like it fell off once the home mons came in, because a certain fighting type got added back in.
A certain water bear says it doesn't care.
Literally, I resist all your attacks. Have fun with that. But
take these wet noodles and go home.
Yeah,
that's why you have the Gastrodon next to it, right?
But that's the thing. It's like having the Gastrodon as well, even though he's using the wrong form of Gastrodon.
I was getting ready to ask if we knew what version of Gastro Alberto was playing.
I believe VR always puts like the
correct version.
That is
okay.
Jay.
So they're wrong. Got it.
Pink Gastrodon supremacy.
I'm Team Blue.
That's good for you.
I actually have no dog in this fight. I don't like Gastrodon.
I had it on my UDL 4 team that I made it all the way to semis with. Blue all the way, every game.
No, pink, definitely. But as we're saying...
Okay, do you know what? It depended on the vibe.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to have the right vibe. And
if I had a team that was a little bit extra pink that week, you throw the pink one on there. If you're a little bit more blue, you know. Also, maybe I'm a little bit sadder, so I'm going to vibe with the blue one a little bit more.
That explains a lot.
No,
yeah.
Everything's...
Jay, you doing okay, buddy?
I'm great, man. Doing the best.
You're asking the wrong person if they're okay. The answer's no.
Listen, it's been a week over here, man.
Oh, yeah.
It has been a week.
You're right. You didn't just watch your kicker miss a extra point.
I mean, I did earlier today.
You would think, after how atrocious it was last postseason, we would have fixed this, but no.
So yeah, Albert. Okay, Carl, we're sorry. Yeah,
I'm not.
We're having fun.
We are. But one of the interesting things that Alberto said, I think it was in his top 8 interview, was that this was also the 6 that he did bring to Worlds. And
interesting. Okay.
And initially at Worlds he brought the Black Glasses King Gambit that again was super popular on the offensive teams of Regulation C, and he said he just never felt like he was clicking Sword Stance enough to actually get anything out of it. And go through all the teams. The only team that doesn't have Intimidate in the top 8 is Ophimezi's team, and that team has 3 ghost types, which again, Alberto can just safely be clicking Sucker Punch, and he'll be
Sucker or Kowtow, yeah. Just delete them.
That even against the one team that doesn't have the the Intimidate to get those the Defiant procs, it's the team that's triple ghost, which again, it's the King Gambit looks super good into. And another way, it doesn't just, you don't need Intimidate to proc it. In his top 8 matchup against Andrew Ding, in game 2, he switched the King Gambit into a Fluttermane Moonblast. The Fluttermane got the minus special attack on the Moonblast into the King Gambit, and now it's like Andrew initially thought, oh, I got free damage on the King Gambit, and now it's, oh no, I just gave the King Gambit a free Swords Dance, and also like he had the Arcanine in the back, so it just turned into a point where nothing's living a sucker punch. Like
I think the funny thing with Alberto's team too is that he's running 2 steals again.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of been a little bit of his staple with the Klefki Corviknight stuff.
Yep.
Also, when you said he didn't change his team from Worlds, not incredibly surprised by that because Alberto is very much known for changing teams. Because he definitely didn't play one team for the entirety of the season.
I actually do think he did change him up, but yeah, he pretty much played one team and just adapts. And that is honestly a sign of a really good player to know what you are comfortable with, and to be able to make like those changes. I do know like there's people who they run a team for an event and they're like, nope, I'm done with it. I'm never going to run it again. And to have the confidence in your own team building to say, I can keep the same team. Am I going to play the same exact sets? Maybe not. But I know like the confidence to say, I know this 6 is good. And it is a really good 6. I do believe that Gastrodon is another one of those Umbreon Theoremons where it always feels like it just comes up and we're like, does anything really beat Gastrodon? And in most formats, at the end of the day, yes. And even in this format, if you can't get your Gastrodon in proper position with the Terror and stuff, the Rillabooms that you see make the Gastrodon go bye-bye. And even like if you're running like an offense or like an Amoonguss with like an offensive attack, whether it be like Leaf Storm or like Grass Knot. But outside of that, like it's a decent-ish Pokemon. It heavily depends on the pilot. I also know like other players who ran Gastrodon. I believe James Evans ran a Gastrodon team. Joe ran Gastrodon as well. The two of them actually, they played, I believe it was like round 13 or round 14 on stream, and it was a 6-mon mirror with the Gastrodon, which was kind of cool. So it's like a lot of these like higher end players, people that we've seen at the top tables during the Scarlet and Violet VGC era, did like Gastrodon. So maybe it's another mon where like when even more power is potentially added in Regulation E, depending how good the new Pokemon that we get are, maybe Gastrodon gets even better.
Do we know what Terra type the Gastro was?
Probably Fairy. Most of them are.
Let me check Alberto's Twitter and see if he.
I just did. There was nothing.
You run the Terra Fairy because you just straight up wall the Urshifu Rapid Strike. Then
I was thinking either Fairy or Poison.
I know Terra Fire was also very popular as well at points in 2023.
There's just a lot less like steel damage in the format. There's not a lot that hits fairy types, besides like the heavy slams on the Iron Hands, which Gastrodon has a pretty good matchup into. You just don't Terra in front of the Iron Hands.
So my thought process behind Poison is then you can have like Sludge Bomb and or like Terra Blast to be able to threaten opposing Rillabooms, but then like you still have Earth Power for like opposing Heat Train, so you're not really worried about that.
You can just run Ice Beam.
They just run Ice Beam.
Yeah,
I mean that's also very true.
Yeah,
right?
It's Earth Power, Ice Beam, Yawn, Protect most of them.
And if it's not Protect,
Terra Fairy.
Yeah, and if it's not Protect, it's Recover.
Yeah,
I think like there might have been some Icy Winds instead of Ice Beam as like an option.
I've seen that popping up here lately. Yeah. I've seen my fair share of Icy Wind.
I could also see like Chilling Water being like a good Gastrodon move, just as like lowering attack and just you get the stab water damage at the very least. The base power is terrible, but the secondary effect's good into Pokemon like Landorus and Iron Hands. But yeah, Gastrodon's just a cool Pokemon, I think, in these high-powered formats because there are these extremely strong water types in them. We have the Urshifu, we have the Kyogre in your GS Cup formats, so it creates nice synergy with like the Heatran and the Landorus, who are both weak to those water type attacks, and it creates some tough games for the Urshifu when you're lined up next to King Gambit or the Flutter Mane, which when Gastron's on the field, the Urshifu can't touch. So
Jay, I'm just saying, you need to go ahead and just write out the script for the Umbreon Theorem video and go ahead and record that for us.
Yeah, no, that could be another thing.
maybe I will. Maybe I'll start doing deep dives. I'm just kidding. I
Hell
don't have
yeah.
time for that. Please don't. Please
No,
don't.
you
you've
said
already
it. You
committed.
said it. You committed.
Nope, I will
You said
ladder.
it. You said it.
I will do ladder.
You've committed.
That's great. You'll also
Go,
do this.
Lamb, go! Go! This episode's going to be completely unwatchable.
Nobody's gonna know what's going on.
Or
Okay.
they're going to know exactly what's going on and exactly what moment we're at.
I mean, all I have to say is, thank God we waited to record, because at least you're like, oh, you're excited. I was not great. Do you guys?
Angelo was vibing, but not always.
My team played earlier today, so I got all my emotions out.
My
We
team-
luckily won. We won comfortably, but we were terrible in the process. So, yeah, that wasn't the most fun. Lamar Jackson put up 7 points for me in 2 fantasy leagues. Amazing.
So the last two teams, I mean, it's really not a lot to talk about. I don't there isn't a ton to talk about. One thing I will note, so Wolf's team has 5 of the same 6 as Jody's. The only difference is Wolf uses Waterfoo, Jody uses the Crest, and I'm a little shocked because Wolf is well known as an overall defensive player, and the difference between the Wolf team and the Jody team is that Wolf opted for a more offensive Pokemon in Urshifu. Maybe that just speaks to the style, or at least what he expected from the format, where he just felt like. I do agree with it. There are a lot of one-hit KOs. I mean, in this farm we've already talked about them. The Specs Chiyu, the banded head smash from Hisuian Arc, even I've seen a few times where they'll stomping tantrum into a protect to get that 150 base power the next turn on a massive with a Lando T with a massive attack, whether it's Scarf or Banded, and go off with that. There's just a lot of one hit KO potential. Even Waterfoo, you're able Terra Water, Mystic Water. Surging Strikes does a ton of damage into even resisted mons. So maybe Wolf just made the executive decision that the extra bulk honestly didn't do much, and he'd rather be able to take the KOs. But it was just interesting to see the dichotomy between those two, knowing the player that Wolf is. And again, Riley's team, Riley's team feels like a mix of a lot of teams. It has that chalky feel. It does have it has really 4 of the same 6 mons. 4 mons with the world's winning team, the Waterfoo, Iron Hands, Amoonguss, Shenpao, with the Crest Heat Rim backbone. I feel it's just taking a lot of all the really good stuff from this entire meta and melding it together into a great team of 6 Pokemon that inevitably gave him his 5th regional rim.
Wolf's team is also really unique because of his Flutter Mane, and I think that's also why he took a different approach with the Urshifu over the Cresselia. Wolf's Flutter Mane is actually booster speed with Moonblast, Icy Wind, and Energy Ball with a Terra Grass.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's it has that speed control with Icy Wind for his mid speed options like the Urshifu, the Landorus, the Chiyu. While also being able to do that gigantic burst damage with the Moonblast, and also being able to pick up KOs into a lot of these strong water type Pokemon, getting decent neutral damage with the Terra Grass Energy Ball into Landorus. Given the Terra, it's probably around the same base power of Moonblast. I could be wrong. I think it's like probably five damage difference because I think it's 90 base power on the energy ball. But
Yeah,
also the
That sounds
Terragrass
right.
gives you that it gives you that immunity to the Amoonguss spore, which came up really clutch in one of Wolf's top 8 or top four games. He Terragrass to ignore a spore, and it allowed him to really pick up a lot of momentum towards the end. I think it might have been his matchup against Jody. It might have been when they played. That could have been yesterday in day one though. But it's a cool set for Fluttermane. I'm not a huge fan of booster speed, just because I feel like you're really missing a lot of that damage output. But that the unique support and offensive skill set that it brings is really really cool.
So I have experience with like a Terragrass booster speed. The initial Hirofumi team was the Flutter on that team was booster speed Terragrass with Calm Mind. Um, Very fun set. Again, it was people change it. I know Andrew Ding ran a Specs Flutter instead, so like the Flutters were different. But the Terragrass Flutter is actually like really really good, especially not even just with the Amoonguss, but it really makes Urshifu a lot more manageable, even if you aren't carrying grass coverage.
Hmm.
But to have that plus the energy ball, that's like amazing Urshifu hate just in general. As for the booster speed, I think we're even seeing it with Iron Hands. There gets to a point. There's like two types of creeps that we see. Two types of like stat creeps. Let me
Mhm.
rephrase that. There's multiple kinds of. Not going to get into that. Two types of stat creeps we will see as a VGC format develops. The first is, of course, like the bulk creep as a format goes on. It feels like everything just gets bulkier. The offense, like the format starts more hyper offense and will always towards the end lean more towards like a bulkier team. And we are seeing it here. The teams that we see in this top 8 are overall bulkier teams than the teams that we saw in the top 8 of Worlds. And the second sort of stat creep we see is always the speed creep. Even like with
Yep.
Iron Hands, one of my people I built teams with, Mia, we featured one of her teams on the, I believe it was like on like the Goodbye Galler series. I believe you played one of her teams that Spack and I built with her. And she was commenting today. She's like, "Why does the average Iron Hands like have 148 like speed invest right now?" And it's because you're always trying to be like creep like 8 points higher, or like throw in 8 points so you could be 1 point higher than the other Iron Hands, and then that becomes the standard, and you throw in one more. And with the Flutter mains, it's gotten to the point where like everyone has like these very like not slow but like slower flutters. And as it came on, it's like, well, I want my flutter out to be their flutters, so you'll throw another point, then you throw in another point, then you throw in timid. Now it's like
That
timid
was
booster
actually
speed.
something. That was actually something I did recently. Dad was running his player draft, not the like his preseason the last couple weeks. And for week 1, I played a Fluttermane set that Carl sent me the team. He's like, the only thing I would change is just like changing up the Fluttermane EVs. So I just went to Peakalytics, took the top rated Fluttermane EVs, which is Timid 212, 132, 36, 4, 124. I'm like, all right, I'm going to make that exactly 1 point faster than that.
Yep.
And just
The Incineroar theorem.
Well,
yeah,
in
in the event
yeah.
that this is
Oh my
in the
gosh, there's
event
too
that this
many.
is something that my opponent is also running, I am going to win the speed time. And then of course my opponent wasn't playing Flutter, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like
Yeah,
that's
it felt bad because Carl was originally playing Modest, and instead I went to Timid. So I'm like, I lost out on all that extra damage because I was playing Booster Timid.
The
But
thing I find most interesting about Wolf's Flutter set is the dropping of Shadow Ball, because I feel like you really miss out into a lot of these top meta Pokemon. Like you're not hitting
Shadow
that
Ball just hits
Cresselia super
so
effective.
much. Yeah.
You get completely walled by Heatran. You get walled by Amoonguss besides, the Icy Wind, but that's also extremely low base power and spread. That Shadow Ball damage I think is extremely important, and it creates that really difficult offensive pairing of two stabs that you just can't get away from when you Terra. And I watched a little bit of the finals. I watched through it. I'm wondering if dropping Shadow Ball may have been a crucial part of that finals. Obviously, dropping it got him all the way up to second place, and it's a fantastic set. But having that Cresselia and that Heatran on the other team, and then Amoonguss, that impact of that ghost type damage could have been really important in that final set. So I think that was a really interesting call on his part.
I think it's like one of those things where Wolf is Wolf, and
He, is
Yeah.
considered the best player of all time for a reason.
yeah, so it's maybe like
Skill diff.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's literally player diff.
But I think that the set is actually really good in theory. It's just you do lose to a lot of these really strong counters to it to begin with. Like that Shadow Ball damage is very important for dealing with the Heatran, and it's very important for dealing with the Amoonguss. So yeah, Carter's defense is just putting me in the fantasy coffin here.
Man, that was awesome.
But yeah, Wolf's team was awesome. We see the Chi-Yu Fluttermane coming back. I believe Wolf had the clear Amulet Lando, which is really cool.
That is really cool. Really good.
I was
for
a
the
big
mirror.
fan of the Choice Scarf, but it was a really good mirror Choice Scarf option because you could do the Intimidate cycling. I believe his still had the U-turn on it. I think it was Stopping Tantrum, U-turn, and Terra Blast. So you could
I
still
like
do
that a lot.
the Intimidate cycling, but also have the Protect option and the ability to block from other Intimidate cyclers.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool and unique.
Yeah, it's weird with like Lando in general, where sometimes it does feel like a Terra Hog, especially if you're trying to get that Terra Flying, Terra Blast. But like, it's also like it just does so much that you kind of want to. It's a hog in the sense, but it's like, oh, I want to do this, and because like I get so much out of it, even in the mirror, in like the Lando mirror, you be like, because I know the other common Terra type for Lando this weekend, defensively was Terra Water, and you just don't get as much out of that. I believe. Well, I mean, you get a lot out of it defensively, but that double stab Terra Flying it's absolutely insane. We saw it a lot with Dragonite, and well, Lando T has a higher attack stat than Dragonite, so why wouldn't you do it there as well?
Yeah, the Terra Flying Terra Blast is really strong. And yeah, it one-shots the Fluttermanes. It's really good into the Amoonguss. Everybody who was preying on Lando T's downfall got proven wrong, and that was me included. I didn't know how good it was going to be in this format.
I thought it was going to be great.
I mean, looking back at the beginning of the format, Lando T was kind of nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, I also just didn't know that it got a Stomping Tantrum for a little while. I thought it would have to run its Stab Earthquake as per usual, which isn't fun when you can't Dynamax to Max Quake.
Didn't it have? Am I making things up, or didn't it have a high horsepower in Gen 8?
Definitely didn't have high horsepower. I think you ran Earthquake for the boosted Max Quake damage. Definitely, I definitely don't think it had high horsepower. It might have gotten Stomping Tantrum, but the base power was like 100 on the Max Quake instead of the 120.
I'm pulling up just to cover all of our bases. We have Earthquake.
And like Bulldoze.
Sand Tomb.
No, it did not get
Mudshot. Bulldoze.
Yeah, it did not.
Yeah.
I am going crazy.
Did it get Stomping Tantrum in Gen 8?
Yes.
No. So that's a new one for this Gen 2.
No.
So yeah, I didn't know it got it.
But it has speed control and Mudshot, so just
and Bulldoze, which I'm surprised that like the Choice Scarf sets haven't been running that. I know you want the Rock Slide for the extra damage, but like Bulldoze speed control is really, really good. Especially when you put like an immune Pokemon next to it who like heals from
maybe
it.
like a certain worm, maybe.
Guys, I promise I don't just reference the worm every episode. It's gonna be
No,
just this
Jay,
once.
it's okay. We're brewing. We're getting in the kitchen.
We are
The kitchen.
brewing.
We're cooking real quick.
Yeah, like, or you could put it next to like Cresselia, which actually does have like a solid speed stat. But I think it's just
Also
because
true.
of tailwind stuff, and you have the genies of healthy meta everywhere, and
opposing Landorses and opposing
yeah,
Cresselias and
and a lot of
all these
trick
ground immune
room,
Pokemon running
and
around.
yeah, I do think that Bulldoze is an extremely cool tech move though. That maybe the Choice Scarf at some point might see. Maybe you want the spread ground damage. I don't know.
Just
Bring
saying,
back
if
bring
you
back
if you
Ting
need
Lu.
a new partner for the worm,
Oh,
just throwing it out there.
when Reg D came out, everybody was asking me because it was right after Hartford. Like, what's the Reg D sauce for the worm? Like, do you put Landorus next to it? Do you put Ursaluna next to it? You like can't, because Orthworm's defense is fine. It's really really good. Its special defense is trash. You need like the Ting Lu. You need to not die from Shadow Ball. You need to not take 75% from Shadow Ball to do the worm stuff correctly. So like I feel like, I mean, I might be wrong now. I think I have a different opinion now. I think it's still good, but I also just don't think that the worm it has a place right now. It's just you're gonna get crit by Urshifu anyway, so you might as well just run like if you're gonna do the Iron Defense Body Press stuff, just do the Shell Armor Gudra. Just make it better. Rest in peace, worm. Praying on its downfall, man.
Maybe it'll come back.
Yeah, maybe.
I love the worm. It's so funny.
It won UDL this season, which was really cool. It was on a Talonchomp team.
Interesting.
Yeah, which was crazy. Beat me in semis. Thought that was really cool. But yeah, I think that the format, I mean, do we get another regional after this with Reg D? We get one
Peoria
more, right?
is Reg E.
Yeah, Peoria's
Okay,
yeah.
so
So
this is
I'm
it.
trying to
This
see
is
if
this
it.
there's
Is there
for
nothing
I'm trying to see. Let me pull up
even in like
the
Europe or anything?
2023 Pokemon.
Oh, Jay, you're asking questions we should
Yeah,
be
I know.
prepared
'Cause,
for.
I mean, I feel like if this was the only Reg D one, that like we
Ye-
had Worlds and one Regionals, like that really stinks. I mean, I think
So
this format's really cool.
so for the U.S., this is our last Regulation D event.
What about
And
elsewhere?
so
There is a
Latin
Latin
American
America
regional.
in September 23rd and 24th.
Yep, September 23rd, 24th.
So we have
So
one
we at
more.
least get one more.
Yep, it is in I can't read. I'm gonna butcher that. It's in Brazil. I know my limitations. I was a
Is that
solid.
Sao Paulo?
I
Is
was a
that the Sao Paulo
no.
regional?
I could
Or
pronounce
is it
that.
somewhere
It's
else this
It's
year?
Brazil.
It's Curitiba. I apologize to any of our Brazilian listeners.
Yeah.
My bad. I will learn to be better. But yeah, it's only like overall only 3 events, and also no locals for this
Yeah.
regulation. It is a little sad. It does make it feel like a wasted format because it really is like a super fun format. On the other end, maybe there's going to be a way with the DLC they start that we haven't seen or don't know of that allows people to like get some of these Pokemon. And
I'm praying
all
for a
this,
ban list.
I don't think we're
I
getting.
want a
Dude,
DLC
same.
ban list.
I don't think we're getting a ban list.
I mean,
Reg F.
when Series 6 dropped, it was literally right after the DLC. So
It was
it's like
it
lines
was
up.
it was actually right after the DLC form, right? Because Reg 5 was a DLC format, so it was
Mhm.
it was the format after, and
It was in
so
between
lame.
the two DLCs.
yeah, it was in between the 2 DLCs.
Which
Oh
we aren't going to
no.
get here because the next DLC is coming out in probably January, right? That would be
I
Yeah.
think
December, January.
it's going to be December, I think, because
Yeah.
I
regulation
think it'll be next year.
regulation E. Well, it looks like unless if it is.
I'm just saying, if they run it, if the next DLC comes out in like February, then we can get a short format of like January, February. That's a ban
Ban
list.
list.
Jay and I Yeah, Jay and I are sharing that brain cell right
Bring the Orthworm back. Bring it.
Yeah, the main reason why I don't think it's a banless format when people went and said it's like, oh, it's like there's like Pokemon that won't be like allowed. They use that same exact diction when in
For the
previous
restricteds,
announcements
right?
just for the restricteds. I think really my only question for like the ban list for Regulation E is if Ogre Pond's going to be legal or not on launch. To be quite honest, I think it is going to be. But again, that's like that would be like the only question mark. The other like that new like trio of Pokemon are definitely going to be legal. Diplin's definitely going to be legal. So like those are the mons where I'm like that's like my question. Like it's just Ogre Pond's like the only one I have a question with. Like I know some people are asking for like Regulation A plus DLC, and that's just not happening. Or even like Reg C plus DLC, and it's like they added these home Pokemon. They're here to stay, and I think
and hear me out, Angelo. They're not fun to play with. I don't want to play with them.
that's a you problem. I think these are great Pokemon, but more so, it's like maybe the DLC makes it so that we can actually get these Pokemon.
I am really hoping that's the case.
Because I think that
I'm hoping you don't have to spend $500 to build the world's team, right?
Yeah. But like that's the thing. Like looking at this team or looking at this format, I really enjoyed this format. My only issue is the fact that like we all get all the games. But even you, like I don't think Carter. Did you even finish Arceus?
No.
Yeah, and I know you're not the only VGC player who didn't finish that game. And there again,
I never even made it through the first like section.
Yeah.
So
but it's not like we played the games. I know like all of us like we got all the games, so it was like a bit of a pain to get all the moving parts together. But like we had these mons. But for the kid who just started playing Pokemon and this is their first game and they want to play competitive Pokemon and to go and like ask their parents like, oh, I need all these other games and I need you to spend like just buying the games like another like $150 for me to play more video games just to get these like 3 or 4 extra Pokemon. I don't think it's just not good for the the game itself. That would be like my only like as we close out Regulation D, my only like thought on why it couldn't have been like an even better format was just accessibility.
I think that is something that if the Pokemon Company cares about the health of their game and the health of their formats, that is something they need to address moving forward. I don't think it's completely reasonable to expect a player to have every Pokemon game ever to be able to play a format.
Yeah, and I do know that
obviously the argument there is, well, you're in the community, you know enough people, you can get access to anything, which I do agree. Like that is a fair argument. Some people don't like that argument. Like some people don't want that.
Well, it's not even that
they don't know where it came from, and I understand that.
Yeah, and it's also just the fact that like before Worlds, they were like, "Hey, don't trade for Pokemon." Now, I did hear from a judge, or like from a friend of a judge, that the hack check at Pittsburgh was not the same Worlds hack check, and that hack check was like Japan specific. So I do believe that like if you are someone who enjoys magic breeding their mons, you're safe or at least safer. As a community, we do have to say it's like we don't care where you get your mons. Just understand that in official events, if you are caught, there sadly are consequences. But like that it seemed to be like what happened at Worlds was a one-time scenario because it was in Japan and the extra laws that Japan has about like modifying game cartridges and save data.
Yep, big agree. Well, I think that's all we got for this week. Anyone else got anything they want to talk about before I go pop off on the Cowboys again?
Do you want to like just give like a last minute like prediction on or like what we're looking forward to most for the DLC? Comes out Tuesday night for us.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that soon.
Yeah, so it's
like I knew it was this week, but like
yeah, so the DLC. Let me pull up on Survey and the exact like time thing. So the DLC, it was announced a few days ago that the patch, it will release as a patch the morning of September 13th in Japan. So what people are saying, it's like it's going to patch in around the same time as like when we would get our updates to the terror raids. So whatever time like you expect to get your terror raids at. So for those of you who live on the East Coast of the United States, it's like 8 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday. That's when you can expect it. So like Carter, for you, it will be like 6 or 7. Again, for our European listeners, it'll be middle of the night. For our Oceania listeners or Asian or like Eastern Asian listeners, it's going to be pretty much like that Wednesday morning. But for those of you in the United States, you're actually going to get this Tuesday night, it seems. I'm most looking forward to Mochi, and specifically the stat clearing Mochi, and I'm just hoping...
It's such a big deal. It really is.
I'm hoping that the other Mochis, the other stat Mochis, can help with EV training even more. One of the other things that came out in a Japanese interview or something, or like game review, that the same mini game that you do to get Mochi, you can also do to get Terra Shards. They didn't say how many.
That in and of itself is a huge deal too.
They didn't say how many shards you're getting, but if it's like if you can play a mini game for like 10 minutes to get 50 Terra Shards, that is significantly better than like waiting for Blissey raid events and having time.
Can I pull out the old dongle and have it run things for me? Is that going to be an option?
I wish.
Man,
didn't they hide the Scarlet and Violet dongle update behind a paywall?
Behind a paywall, yeah.
Just not worth it.
There's a reason I haven't done anything related to this game.
Yeah, pretty much. Long live the dongle. So yeah, that pretty much that's what I'm looking forward to. Mochi and potentially getting shards easier. Oh, and Mammo Swine's coming, so I'm going to get my baby boy.
Yeah, but like it's bad, so who cares? Jay, you got anything, bud?
Surprises. I'm hoping for Paradox Entei to look like a Triceratops.
I think that's going to be
That's
DLC
going to be the
too.
next DLC, though, right?
Yeah, that's definitely DLC
Raikou
too.
is the Indico Disc. I mean,
yeah, so Entei's going to be.
I don't know. It feels a little empty if they're not dropping it. They're not dropping the other one in the Teal Mask.
If they drop it in the Teal Mask, I will send you whatever gift you want within $25.
Anything I want up to $25.
Yeah,
that's an open agreement to everyone listening too. You didn't specify. So.
I said that to Jay. Okay, Jay. That's specifically Jay.
I didn't hear that.
That is specifically Jay.
All right, Carter, what do you want in the DLC?
The Cowboys winning doesn't count.
I don't know, man. I haven't played Sword and Shield. I mean, Scarlet and Violet. And, who knows how long at this point? So, like, something engaging to bring me back into the game would be cool.
Well, having new content, and that is maybe something we should talk about as well. I know Carter made the announcement, but we are going to try. I know the YouTube channel has pretty much been where we've been posting the podcast.
Pretty quiet here lately, and we're gonna try to revitalize it. So
yeah, we're going to do some fun things. It's not just going to be Carter and Carl. With Carl and the executive producer, you might see Jay, who is a veteran streamer, and I just got a capture card, so you might see some bro content.
Which if and when stuff happens, it'll happen.
Yeah, stuff to look forward to, folks.
So yeah. I think that's gonna be it this week. Who wants to do the outro? I told
you.
I'm not doing it this week.
Nope, you are.
Nope, definitely you.
We don't know it.
Wait. Noses, everyone. Oh God, Jay, it's you. No, Jay, you were last. You got to do it.
Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Check out the Twitter at LR Lessons. Ro runs that thing. Make sure you go to the Patreon. We got Patreon tiers. We got Discord subscriptions. We got my Twitter, my Discord, Ro's Discord, Ro's Twitter, Carter's Twitter, Carter's Discord. Go follow us up and give us all the vibes over on those systems.
You know, that wasn't terrible. Well, we have everything linked down below. Do want to give a shout out to our $10 and up patrons, including Johnny Bravo Sr., Papa Swish, and Smeargle over on Discord as well. And you know, I'm leaving it as such. I think it was good enough.
We're also on Blue Sky, or at least I am at Rose Tinted Cheeks, and I post the videos there as well if you want to avoid.
Oh, I actually didn't know that because I'm not on Blue Sky, so I don't know anything about it.
Do you want?
I literally don't know what that is.
It's a Twitter clone.
Twitter made by Twitter.
Ah,
yeah.
I see.
It's invite only Twitter.
I was going to say I have like invite codes, so offline if you guys want them, like feel free.
Yeah, sure, who knows? We'll figure it out. So I think that's it. I think we're out of here. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and until next week, have a good one. Peace.